The Texas Attorney General apparently has created a hoopla, controversy over the use of a classroom in a high school for Muslim prayer. Now, allegedly, Ken Paxton was so concerned about the First Amendment and not discriminating against students based on upon their religious beliefs that he just raised issues about Muslim students being allowed to use a prayer room in observance of their faith. You know, it was, according to school officials, students have had to leave campus on Fridays to go to prayer service and have missed upwards of 2 hours of school to do so. So a room was created, I believe it was back in 2009, to allow students a space to be able to pray as required by their faith and then not have to miss out on class and instruction time, right? So students are saying, so instead of having to leave and drive someplace with their families, it's only taking 5 minutes now because they can do it on class. So the concern was that other faiths, students of other faiths, were being excluded from the space, right? And they're not. According to the school district, that's not the case. Other faiths, if people else want to go pray, they can go pray in there. It just so happens that is specifically designated for Muslim students. That's the place where they know they can go pray at a specific time. If somebody else, if you're Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Catholic, whatever, if you want to go pray, you can go in there and pray too. It's just that you know that if you're a Muslim student and you need to make salat, that's where you can go. So what's also interesting, though, is that the Texas Attorney General Paxton recently submitted an amicus brief in support of the Trump ban the first go round last month. So this is not just I just got to protect the religious freedom of my students. We already know from prior course of actions that this is something that has already been going on for the last 7-8 years. This has already been a practice and procedure that has already gone on. And not that just because things have been going on, for a long period of time, that if it's unconstitutional, that suddenly makes it acceptable. No, but in this specific case, there is no indication that it's a school directed effort. The school has allowed a space that's just empty and available to be used. Other students have access to it. They were also pointing out that they do have other religious student groups that meet before or after school. So as long as it's student led, it's being driven by the students, and the school does not have anything to do with it, it generally is acceptable practice and outside of a violation in terms of freedom to practice religion. I mean, it is a really interesting conversation, though, because that's normally what we see. Like even at my kids' schools, we've seen things come home. There is a prayer group and mentor program that does meet, I think, before school for both of my kids. They don't participate, but that is something that is available. But it's a student-led, driven organizational thing. It's not from the school at all. But during the school day, it's kind of a weird situation, right? To say, well, this isn't the school, even though it's happening during the school. But at the same time, if we're also not going to inhibit with the free exercise of religious faith, Muslims perform salat, and they need a space to do so. And providing a space, it's not interfering with the learning process. It's not taking away from anyone else. I mean, none of the other religions that Paxton, Christians, to my knowledge, and I can be corrected because I'm not always right, Christians do not have the same rigid requirement in terms of prayer or requirement of space in the same way, right? So just because, but the fact that the space is open, it is available, other people can use it. So it was just really interesting because they were just like, the governor tweeted, I guess, here we go with public officials in Twitter. Public officials need to get the hell off of Twitter. I'm just going to say that right now. The governor tweeted that the attorney general was concerned and, they were looking into it. But the setting it up, it seemed like there was a bigger issue though. And that's not what's being looked at by the state, which is also problematic. And if they just at least had a conversation with the school district before making a big thing out of it, they would have found out, like I said, that other people use the room too. It is available. It's like in a hospital. With my dad, I've spent a lot of time in the hospital recently with my dad in the hospital. There is a spiritual room. I think this is called, it's called like spiritual room or whatever. And you can have your different spiritual services and other things and just provision on site. It's a public place, but it's provision on site for people to be able to use it as they need to see fit. There's no, distinction. I don't know if you're a Satanist. I don't know if you would use a prayer room. I'm not really sure how that works, but I'm sure you couldn't be denied access to it, right? So I thought that was really interesting. These people and the lengths that they'll go to penalize, subjugate, and deny access to others just based on the fact that they're different outside of the norm that they care to deal with, right? So they're, this is just like they're trying to politicize something that is a non-issue. And it's just interesting that they claim that they were concerned, but they weren't aware of how people use the room during non-instructional time or how this works. I mean, it just seems like you would ask questions of the school district first before popping off at the mouth and doing all this other stuff. What is interesting, though, is back in December, the Texas Attorney General actually did win a religious freedom case. There was a school district principal that told I think it was a school nurse's aide to remove a large poster. It was a large poster that had a bit of a, what was it? It was a Charlie Brown's Christmas, I believe it was, and it had a Bible verse on it. And it read, "For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord." So that's what it said on there. And so the nurse's aide was forced to remove it from the wall. And then they sued the school district and the principal and the superintendent and school board, and they actually won that case. So I think that definitely differs, but he does seem to have an issue in terms of whether or not Christians in particular are being marginalized, this whole war on Christmas type of thing. And that seems to be spilling over also now as we've seen his support for the Muslim ban and this nonsense that's going on here.